Hey everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started here. We're going to be doing a little bit, I should say, we're going to be covering bar inspection as far as they're concerned on what their requirements when we do air conditioning inspections. So I wanted to bring this up because it's going to be very important. Not only do you have to have your 609 EPA certification, you have to know what bar is requiring you to do where you do your inspections. Now, I want to put a little caveat on this because if bar changes regulations, you need to know that. And the best way to do that is go on the Consumer Affairs website or you can just put in bar smog check or smog check, I should say, and that'll get you right over to the bar website, and then you can start looking for the articles and all like that. A lot of what I'm going to what I'm going to be doing is I did a little PowerPoint presentation on the Write It Right. The Write It Right is the this section where we actually have not just smog check, but it goes through the different parts. It actually goes through basic information you need to do, when it comes to doing your invoices and also your work orders. It has that in it, which is very important, but it also has it broken down to smog check, air conditioning, auto body, and stuff like that. So I'm only going to focus on the air conditioning portion of it, but I have put a document there. It's called Write It Right, and that is from the Bureau of Automotive Repair. So if you don't know what BAR stands for, it's the Bureau of Automotive Repair. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to, like always, open up this PowerPoint. So you should be able to see the PowerPoint slide right now. And what it's just the basic one I put together. It actually has some of the regulations that BAR has in place right now. And I wanted to back that up. I didn't want it to be just me saying it. I wanted to back it up with regulations. So let's go ahead. So this is the bar, actually, I put it together and I put a little things together. So any automotive repair dealer that performs or advertises automotive air conditioning work or service shall perform all the following procedures as part of the air conditioning service. And it goes over the, business code and stuff like that, and code of regulations. So this is really where it comes from. So there's two different sections that cover this. And if you were to pull up the California Code of Regulations, you would actually see this in place too. So yeah, you want to understand that it actually is regulation. It's not something that's, okay, think about it. This is actually what it is. The next one, the following procedure and any work, service work performed must be documented on the final invoice. So you really have to be vigilant on your documentation. Don't just write little notes and not put it on the invoice. You have to, document this on the invoice as you go through. And if you ever get audited, or if the Bureau of Auto Repair decides that they want to come in because from a complaint, hopefully you don't get any, but you really need to understand that this is what BAR is requiring. So, so the procedure, this is the first part. So exposed hoses, tubing, and connections are examined for damage or leaks. This is the obvious one. Start off with, you will be, and like we've been doing in class, we've been doing, working with the machines, the air conditioning machines. We have also been doing some leak check, and we're going to get deeper into that as we go along. But as part of your procedure, you need to be doing some visual to start off with. Always start with a visual. A lot of times you find things that are so obvious and then it takes no time to repair it. But start off with your visual and then look for any kind of damage, like it's been hit. You've got a hose just separated out into the atmosphere. maybe you have, a tubing or maybe a connection that is broken loose. So it's important that you kind of do this visual, kind of go through the routing of it. Now, this is exposed, okay? This is not, you got to tear panels off. If the panel is easy to access, like some of them snap off really easy, that's okay. But if it's really covered up, because some of these engines, believe me, they have covers all over them. It's really hard to see. And you want to make sure you just look at the exposed. Like I said, if it's got a snap off, you really good like that. And this goes without saying that you don't have to really raise up a vehicle. I recommend you do, just to make sure I'm getting in it. I'm servicing my customers what I'm doing. So I want to make sure that I give them a good inspection when I do my inspections. The compressor and the clutch, when accessible, okay, are examined for damage, missing bolts, missing hardware, and broken housing and leaks. And this is where, again, you may have to raise the vehicle up. You've got to do a thorough inspection. And if the compressor is just hanging there, of course, excuse me, that you need to document that. If it's missing a bolt, got a broken bolt, if the compressor clutches is not even connected anymore. I've had a few vehicles that the compressor clutch is not there. The hub is out in the middle of some street someplace. So you want to document all this stuff. The belt's blowing off of it. All this stuff needs to be looked at while you're doing your inspection. The compressor rotates to determine if it's seized or locked up. There again, you may have a compressor that is not rotating, and some of them are really hard to get to. So if you if you can get down to it, again, I recommend you raise them up if it's underneath, the compressor's hung underneath, and you get down there and push it a little bit, see if it can actually rotate. This is one way of doing it. And then the service ports are examined for missing caps. That's important, like I've said many times. Damage spreads and the labeling, making sure the labels are in place. Okay, the labels, it has to say what kind of refrigerant is involved. Okay. You want to look at the ports too. I've had a few retrofit vehicles that went from R12 to 134A, where the service technician didn't change the service ports, and that is a no-no. Okay, and he didn't label it, but my identifier picked it up. So this is one of those important things when it comes to identifying the refrigerant too. So you want to make sure all the service ports are in place. The caps are in place. Remember, the cap is the seal. It's not the actual Schrader valve, the port itself, the service port is not the sealing one. It actually helps with the sealing, but it's the cap is the actual seal. Okay, so make sure those caps are in place and they're tight so they're not going to leak. The condenser coils are examined for damage and restrictions or leaks. You want to make sure it can have good airflow going across it. You want to look at the core if you can. I mean, some of them are really hard to look at, but again, you may have to raise it up to look at the core and see if it's got anything, plugging it up, road dirt, debris, can it get sucked right up into it? You want to see if it's been hit and any obvious signs of leak. You might get a little rock hit it and make a leak into it too. So this is some of the things that you really need to be looking at. And expansion devices, if accessible, is examined for physical damage, or leaks themselves. So these are some of the things that you want to look at. Some of the expansion valves are out there. Some of the blocks are right out there at the dash, but sometimes they're covered up. You can't really accessible unless you start pulling big pieces off it to get to it. Some of them are inside the dash. There's something that you can't really look at, but if it's out in the open, you can, and you can actually visually find it and see it. Now you want to make sure you're looking for any kind of damage or any kind of leaks going on with that too. The accumulator, receiver dryer, and inline filters have been checked for damage, missing, or loose hardware or leaks. Your accumulators out there, your receiver dryer, you remember some of the receiver dryers, they're not physically a separate unit. There's actually a kind of a hybrid unit where it's actually part of the actual condenser. So this is something you want to look at also. The belts, I kind of went over this a little bit earlier. You want to look for the belts, make sure they're in place. You want to look for any kind of tensioners that might be broken off or misaligned. You want to look for excessive wear of the belt. On your serpentine belts, you want to look at the cracking of the actual belt itself. If it's a old conventional V belt type, you want to look to see if there's any pieces. Either belt, you want to look for pieces missing. You want to look for a belt, and I also look for tension of the belt too, to make sure it is into specification. Some manufacturers do a deflect, and some manufacturers actually have a different method for you to actually check the tension. There's some tension gauges out there too. The fan clutch has been examined for leaks, bearing wear, and proper operation. Now, with your electric fans, that's different. If you have the old mechanical type fans, and some of the old stuff, you want to get really way back. We had what they called flex fans. These flex fans could lose pieces to them. You have the old clutch fans that have a viscous fluid in them, and sometimes they leak the fluid out. These are different. It's very similar to what you're seeing right here. If you have a truck, sometimes it still will come with a mechanical type fan, but most of them have gone away. Most of them are electric fans nowadays. Again, this is another, bent blades. It could be the mechanical. It could be you've got blades missing on your electric fan here, and it may not even work. That's another thing when we get into the electrical part. But right now, remember, we're doing visual. We're looking to see if it has any obvious signs of damage, if it's a part of the actually the gas part or the refrigerant part. We're looking to see if it has any kind of leak to it. And then look for any connections, and you'll be surprised how many times you can find a connection off and that's all it was. And like that, no, I went to a little extreme on this picture here, but sometimes you have connections that are just burnt through. And if you see a connector and it's dark on one part of it and it's bubbled up, then you're gonna, it pretty much is that. It is a problem with the connection there, and you got to figure out later on. This is, and remember, we're still just doing visual right now, but you're going to have to find out why later on when you get into your diagnostic part of it, why it actually has a burnt part of it. And you want to identify it. And I preach this all the time: identify. You do not want to damage your machine. You do not want to have the struggles with the contamination of the gases. So you want to make sure you know what you're dealing with. And like I said before, I've caught a few retrofits that were not labeled properly or have the actual right caps on them. So this is the best way to catch that. And we still have some issues once in a while. The other day I was helping a friend out, and he actually was, curious why the pressures were so weird. And I said, "Did you identify it?" And he said, "No. I thought it was, it wasn't had nothing to do with the gases." I said, "Identify it," and I found out it had propane in it. So, and that takes a whole different machine, and then it's considered hazardous waste. It has to go to a special place to actually have those gases treated. So this is something I really want to press on you, that you make sure you identify it. And leak checking. So the system has been checked for leaks at a minimum of 50 psi system pressure. So that's important. You have to have, if it's got 0, we can't really check it. We need to, put some in, get out of 50 psi and check it that way. Be careful on that too, because sometimes you lose a lot of refrigerant. Unfortunately, well, you could probably try putting with the machines, try just putting a very little bit in, maybe, I don't know, maybe about 4 ounces or so, and see if you get a leak out of that, and then bring it in a little bit farther. Some of your machines are pretty smart. If they see that they're putting refrigerant in, and a lot of us, what we do is put it into a vacuum. And if we put it in a vacuum and that won't hold a vacuum, we know we have a leak. So we have to go a little bit farther. We might even have to put a little bit in it. So this is one thing, 50, if it's got 50 psi or greater, then you can actually do a leak check. All right. And the compressor, clutch, blower motor, and air control doors have been checked for proper operation. So this is where you go and check, defrost. You want to check for the regular air conditioner register. You want to make sure the heater part of it works too. So you want to make sure all that is working properly. You want to hear the clutch come on if it has a clutch cycling system on it. So you want to check that. You want to make sure that the blower motor comes on. All these things that you're just basically, it's a not quite a performance check, but you're wanting to see if it works, if it comes on at all. And then you're going to connect your gauges to it. Okay, so you're going to make sure the gauges are reading pressures where they should be. And again, there's a lot of different charts out there. I've got a few that I'm posting, but I want to post those when we get into the more diagnostic part of the class. The high and low side systems operate pressures are applicable to and have been measured and recorded. Again, we're recording it on the final invoice. We want to make sure that is notated. Okay, these were the pressures going out, and that's going to help you in the long run too. So keep that in mind. And then the center air distribution outlet temperature has been measured and recorded. So pressures, outlet temperature. Remember, you get your your high side, your low side, and then you're going to put your actual temperature out of the center register. So that is, required also to be documented on your invoice. All right, so there is a special note, and this is the part if your air conditioning work which does not involve opening the refrigerator portion of the air conditioning system, right? Refrigerant evacuation or full or partially refrigerant charge need not include the procedure listed above, on the past pages there, unless required an acceptable trade standards. So if the manufacturer requires that you do certain things, then that's saying, hey, you know what? I didn't have to open up the system. So if I connect my pressures on it, and I know I'm not going to have to open up the system, you don't have to go through all the steps. I recommend you do. Always, it is kind of coming back to that, cover yourself. You want to make sure that you go through all procedures. Make sure you charge for your air conditioning service. I know you see a lot of probably shops out there giving this special $24.95 and 1 pound of Freon AC service. I would be careful about doing that. Your time is worth money, and you are doing a professional service for your customers. You want to make sure you take these steps in consideration when you're charging. Whatever your shop rate might be, I would say this is going to take you, depending on the car, 30 minutes to an hour. So kind of get that in mind. I know a lot of shops already have a set price for air conditioning inspection, and I wouldn't put it so much as an air conditioning service. I would actually write it up as an air conditioning inspection, and then you probably put the service on the end of it. But make sure you're inspecting it properly, you're documenting properly. When the Bureau of Auto Repair comes in, they're going to be looking for these kind of, I wouldn't say simple, but they're going to be looking at these steps. Make sure you went through them, and you went through and documented. I always write down kind of simple things like inspected air conditioning system, and found XYZ, system pressures in, and after, if I get it, an approval to go ahead and repair the vehicle, I actually do a little farther. I actually, at the end, I do a performance test. Okay, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. And then I always write my pressures out. And I go a little deep, I want to make sure the customer understands, but I actually say fixed, whatever component XYZ, and then performs AC performance test. The ending pressure was this and this, and my retro temperature on at end was this. So this is going to help you quite a bit when you're doing your AC services, and it will help you understand how the system works too. So I hope this is beneficial. I'm going to go ahead and stop my presentation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can get me on my email, or you can actually get me through my cell phone. So I hope, like I said before, I hope this is beneficial, and I'll see you in class. Bye for now.